Hi guys, welcome back to Rambling Inkosaurus. I'm Janice, and today we're going to talk about Latinx books, and we're going to break them up into a couple of categories. And I really look forward to talking about a lot of these books, all of these books, and but I just wanted to give a little bit of an update to let you know that I will be posting videos every other week. I'm actually going to be posting them every other Wednesday, so that we can get a little more consistent schedule going on. And some of them are going to be just like the ones that I'm doing today and the one that I did about Indigenous writers. If you haven't seen the one about Indigenous writers, I'm going to link it up here on top. And I'm also going to put it in the description box below. Take a look and see that. And also interspersed, it's going to be me chatting about specific books that I really enjoy, and being able to just give a little more in depth about some of the books that I really admire and some of the writers that I really admire. So with that being said, we are going to dive right in. Okay, so the first two books I'm actually going to group together because they're both set in the same place. And I thought that that would be appropriate for them to be put together. And there's my pilon. And the first one, the reason why I put that out there is it's very integral to Latin culture, but it is Dominicana by Angie Cruz. And this book is absolutely wonderful. Of course, like I said, it's set in New York City. And in a time, I believe it's in the 50s or in the 60s, where a lot of people did not know or were unaware that there were Dominicans in New York. A lot of people assumed that there were just a lot of Puerto Ricans and that kind of thing. But this is another aspect of history. As you see, when I bought it from Angie, when she was on tour, she was able to sign it for me, and I thought that that was really special. The book is a substantial book. Each chapter is a substantial thing. You can see that it has various parts, but it is a very impactful book. It is wonderful, beautifully written. It has these great idioms that are usually told in Spanish that she translated into English. And when I asked her about them, she said it was pretty much a wink to all the Latinx people that are reading the book, so that it's something that we have for ourselves while we're reading something this special and this profound in our culture. So I thought that that was really spectacular. The second book that we're going to talk about is one that I happened upon, and I'm so glad that I did, and it is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book, as you see with all of the medals, is a National Book Award winner, and it has a bunch of different accolades for it, justifiably so. This book is deemed a young adult novel, of course, because the antagonist is a young adult named Xiomara Batista, and she is a poet, and a poet that is coming into her poetry. And so this is written in a poetic style. It has a lot of verses, and each chapter has different verses, and they are incredibly impactful verses. She is able to put a lot of story within those verses, and I'm not honestly one to read a lot of poetry, but it wasn't that kind of poetry where you were just like, what does it all mean? It was very prosy verse, and I really appreciated that when I was reading it. It looks like a very thick book, but with all the verse and the way it is put together, it is not very thick at all. The other book that I would love to read in the future is With the Fire on High. That's one of the ones that I actually started, and I would like to continue to read that one. And the next book, which just came out in May of this year, is Clap When You Land. And these books, again, are dealing with really wonderful issues with adults, young adults, new adults, and I think a lot of adults that read these books are able to kind of deal with some of the issues as they did when they were kids. So I think those two books are really great to start with. They're very accessible for everybody. The next one is set in an island, not just with island people, but this is called Island Beneath the Sea. This one is by Isabel Allende. Isabel Allende is a Chilean author who writes all different kinds of genres. She's actually written young adult. She's written nonfiction, memoirs, and adult fiction, and she's very much known for her adult fiction. This is the first Isabel Allende book I had ever laid my hands on, and it is about a young lady named Zarite that is living on what people call the island of Hispaniola, what the Tainos call Quisqueya, and I believe it's in the island of Haiti. And it is a very complex world that she creates in there, and all the different characters that have to interact, and what Zarite goes through as a woman of mixed race with light skin, and everything that has to that comes with that during that time and place. And so it is beautifully done. Of course, it is written very lovely. And there's Isabel on the back insert by her bio. And I just absolutely love this book. I have read the book, and I have also listened to it on audiobook. And I recommend either one. If you're not into reading longer books, I would definitely give it a listen, because the voice actor that's doing it really brings it home to you. So it's really a great way to sort of get into the heart and soul of what it was like during that time on this particular island. So I definitely recommend Isabel Allende, this one or any of her other books. All right, and so now we're going to hop back into a contemporary book, and this is Death, Dickinson, and the Demented Life of Frenchie Garcia by Jenny Torres Sanchez. And I actually met Jenny Torres Sanchez in February of this year at an author festival, and I decided to read one of her books, and I was completely captivated by this book. It's about a young girl named Frenchie who experiences a death around her, actually a suicide around her, and she is not sure how she's going to be able to cope with it, and she pretty much isn't coping with it, and through the book. So she's kind of working out a lot of the feelings and emotions that she needs to work out for herself, and kind of figure out what she wants to do with her life. It is a short book, and I read it on ebook and actually have it coming to me. I absolutely loved this book. Nice and contemporary, and it's based in Florida, so I thought it was great. Her next book that's come out just now, just this past month, is We Are Not From Here, and this book is really gaining traction. It is a great YA perspective of young people going through migrating up from Central America to the United States. And this book, I believe the New York Times has just done, in the past couple of weeks, has just done an article on it, and it is supposed to be spectacular. I can't wait to read it. But I would definitely keep Jenny Torres Sanchez on your radar, because she is fantastic. The next book is going to be a transitional book. This one is called Stories from Puerto Rico. I've had this book for a long time because I was really interested in a lot of the stories that I wasn't told as a kid about traditional stories that we would use in Puerto Rico. As you see, it has sketches of things like bohíos and that kind of thing inside in Puerto Rico. As you see, it's also a bilingual book, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, because you're able to see the stories in English and in Spanish. They're one right next to the other. So you see that it says the name in Spanish and then the name in English, and it's translated beautifully. And it also has these great paintings and illustrations throughout the book to kind of give you context for each of the different stories. I thought that was wonderful. And I also have an English-Spanish vocabulary section right at the back. So if there was anything that you kind of wanted to look up or kind of figure out as you went, you could be able to do that. So just because it is in Spanish doesn't mean you can't read it in English, and vice versa. So I would definitely recommend that so that you can get a little more historical stories, and it's not just stories that are from like the 50s and 60s onward. It is very traditional, back all the way to Taino culture and other cultures that were mixed together in Puerto Rico, or what we call in Borican, for us to be able to kind of hold on to and pass from generation to generation. That is how we do it. Okay, so that book leads me to what I called hybrid voices, which is Indigenous Latinx. A lot of our Indigenous Latinx voices are spread throughout the publishing world. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them that deal specifically with Indigenous Latinx voices, and actually says that it's about Indigenous Latinx voices. And the first book that I thought would be recommendable would be Sabrina and Karina. It is the National Book Award finalist. I believe it was for this year. This book it's a collection of stories, so it has several stories in here about what it is to deal with being an Indigenous Latinx person and what that means culturally, and how that intersperses with your life, the life of the people before you, and the life of the people after you. The next one is The Other Slavery, and this is by Andres Reséndez. This is the uncovered story of Indigenous enslavement in America, and this is another National Book Award finalist. This book talks about the slavery of Indigenous people all the way back before there was that there was black slavery here. There was the slavery of Indigenous cultures, and how that played into the development of America. And it is a very interesting book. It is one of those books that you want to continue to look through and find a bunch of different information that you haven't been taught in school. It does have maps. It doesn't have a super big amount of illustrations. It is more about content. Of course, it is a nonfiction book. And so you can see how the different maps are constructed, and what they mean for specific times and places, and what they mean for specific peoples throughout the book, and a lot of the things that were happening during that time. And you see that it says a new era of Indian bondage, and shows how the lines were redrawn, and how they continue to do so. So it is one of those books that you want to have on your shelf for reference, and it's another one that you want to be able to see perspectives that you haven't really seen in other kinds of books, and it is a very highly recommended book. So those are my two selections for Indigenous Latinx books that are very important to be able to pursue. All right, so these are my recommended books, which means books that were recommended to me by someone else. And I really am looking forward to reading these books because I can always, find time to read something else. And this book I have had on my TBR for a very long time. This one's called Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And this book is one of those books that is, you can see that it has this Art Deco design combined with a Mayan design. Like, it is these gorgeous colors. It's gilded. It is so fantastic. And the idea is that a Mayan god has been called up and is going to be dealing with situations for the main character. There is a glossary because she does use various languages, so it's very important to be able to have that on hand. And there she is on the back inside cover of that. Of course, there was advance praise for Gods of Jade and Shadow. Another book that I'm not going to put up here, but it's called Prime Meridian, and and certain dark things are going to be are one of the things that I really enjoyed. And that book, Mexican Gothic, just came out, and we just got it in the mail. And that's another one that I want to read because I really can't get enough of great Latinx writers and what they are producing. So this next book was recommended to me by Jenny Torres Sanchez, and this is called Ordinary Girls by Jaquira Diaz. And funnily enough, I started reading this one, and it is an incredibly amazing book. It is a book full of almost essays that have been put together with her memoir. You see that Julia Alvarez writes something about that on the cover, praising this book. But this book is amazing. It is done in parts as well. And what this woman has gone through as a girl, going through all of these times and places in Puerto Rico and then moving to the United States and having all of these family conflicts, it is a very impactful book. And I definitely recommend anybody who wants to really delve in to start reading that. This book was recommended to me by my partner. It's called The Hummingbird's Daughter by Luis Alberto Urrea. This book has curanderas in it, which are the curers and healers of native culture, of Latin culture. And this book, I'm dying to read this book. It's a big book, and I'm very excited to start delving into it and exploring everything that has to do with the protagonist. The protagonist is able to lay hands on people, and such wonderful things. So I did read the essay on the back, and it talks about some of his journeying to create this book, and I was already hooked the minute I read that. So I am very excited to get started into this book, and I will probably do an update on that one as well once I'm done reading it. But this comes highly recommended, and I'm very fortunate to have it already at home so that whenever I'm ready to pick it up, I will be able to get right into it. So I'm very excited, looking forward to reading this book and many more of his books. And the last book that I have on here is one that I received for Christmas, and I was very, very excited. And it's Juliet Takes a Breath. And it's not just about Latinx writing. It is also about a queer Latinx female protagonist. And I just love that. And I can't wait to read that. Juliet Takes a Breath. If you saw the cover, it was very shiny. It is so gorgeous. And it is a coming of age story. I haven't read any of these. These were recommended to me. And so I am definitely looking forward to looking further into this story and really understanding. As you see, Roxanne Gay recommends this book. I am very much down with that. And the end papers. Look at the end papers. Oh, the end papers are gorgeous. And you can see it says Uptown in the Bronx, and it has all of the different things that reminds me of when I was a kid. And then the back end papers are something completely different. Because she is moved from one place to the next. And there is Gabby herself. And I thought that this was going to be a phenomenal book, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to talk about it a bit more when I finish reading it. So I would definitely invite you to read that along with me. All right, so that is our collection of Latinx books for this video, and I hope that you are going to give some of these a look. If there are any that you have already read, please let me know in the comments below how much you enjoyed them. If there are other recommendations you have, please let me know that too. Like I said, every other Wednesday we're going to be doing these videos, so I can't wait to come back and talk to you guys about books. In the meantime, please click like or subscribe, and thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to be back with you guys again soon.